You having trouble with your Honda Odyssey no horn? It's not working at all, or maybe it was working and it just stopped. That's the problem I have here with a friend of ours. I think it's a 2007 Honda Odyssey. Horn's not working, so I'm going to test them and I'm going to fix it. Got some skippable chapters included, in case we get to a point and it's like, okay, I've seen this, like where's the next part of it? In the description, it should be listed there. Open the hood, and on the passenger side, there's this box. It's got these tabs. You just squeeze them and pull up a little bit. Squeeze this other one, pull up. Actually, if I had two hands, you could just do all four at the same time. This is where some of your fuses are, and if we look right over here, it says horn. It's actually your stoplights as well. It's a 20 amp. It's a fuse. I believe it's this yellow one right here. And we're going to test it to make sure it works. I'm going to go on a ground here on the body. And first I'm going to check this power source. Now we go to the fuse, one side of it, and yep, that one's working. Let's go to the other side as well, on top. Looks like it's working fine, so it's not the fuse, power on both sides. So as far as we know, we have power either coming or going to where we need it to go. Just not really sure if there's somewhere else or not. That test light I used, of course, just a normal one. It's not one of those LED ones. You don't need that necessarily. And yeah. So underneath is where your horns are here. Now this one, the plastic inner fender is busted. It's got a hole in it. That's the whole problem with why the horns aren't working. I think in the first place, we just got a whole bunch of water and dirt in there. Snow, because we are in the snow belt here. We're in Manitoba, Canada. I'm just going to clip my test light onto this bolt here. That should be a ground on this one. And we're going to go back up to our little test box there and touch one of these screws, and yeah, look, we've got the ground's working because we've taken from that power source back to the ground where the horn is here. So if anything, it might be power, which is this clip right here. Maybe the wire's broken, although both of them aren't working. So what are the chances? It's got a little clip you squeeze. The part you squeeze goes down, and on the other end it's going to lift up and unhook a latch. Problem is here, I see there's a whole bunch, sort of squeeze this to go down, Leas. There's a whole bunch of little gravel in there, just little stones making it not want to move. So I've got a little pick tool. It's kind of like a little screwdriver with a little sharp pick on the end. I'll put maybe a link in the description for those two. This one, it's got a little bit of an angle on it, which makes it easier. And you see all the junk coming out here, but that stuff is stuck in there pretty good. And again, part of the reason is the inner fender well was busted on this. I'm going to try and patch it up a teeny bit. But then this won't happen again, we hope. Hopefully this repair will outlast the van. So more picking, we're just about done here. Just going to show you once we got that working. I'm just going to pry here a little bit to get this out. I'm going to pry against the horn gently while I'm pushing the little tab there. And it unhooks. Stubborn. Again, lots of dirt, it's been sitting here for quite some time. It's an old van already, right? 2007, this is 2024, almost 2025. And we see here it's got a single pin. So it's using the horn or the body, where the horn is screwed into the body or the frame as the ground. That's okay. I guess I could have back probed into the wire just to see if there's, power coming there. I'm going to actually use this probe. Kind of a power type probe. I'm going to inject power into there, and the horn should beep. 12 volts? No. Press 12 volts again, and I see nothing's happening. These actually have a built-in circuit breaker too, so if it did short out, and look, horn falls apart. That's pretty rusty. We see why it's not working. Hey, if you can, give me the thumbs up. You must have learned something here already. It helps YouTube know that I'm trying to do a good job. I'm going to try and remove this 12 millimeter bolt is what's holding this horn in. Of course, it's been in here for however many years, right? So, what is that, 17 years or whatever how old it is. I bet you it's almost as rusted in there, or it could be. So I'm going to try and spray some lubricant, some kind of a not an anti-seize, but penetrating oil is the word I'm trying to come up with. There was a hole above that I'm hoping the penetrating well will kind of run down onto. I was trying to take that straw there and bend it so we could kind of hit it a little bit. Anyway, it came out. I was worried that it might break. You know, sometimes these things are rusted in there and they snap off. Rusted out just like this horn. Pretty bad, huh? And there was that 12 millimeter bolt. I'm just going to put it back in here because I've got to order these horns. I know they're not working. And it's going to take some time. I've got my electric probe here. I'll put a link in the description of this too. This is cool. See, you just touch something and it knows, is it a power or is it a ground once it's hooked up. Also, you can inject power by pushing the switch. You can run 12 volts into it, or you can run a ground, depending on what kind of testing you're doing. You can get yourself into some trouble with that. It comes with this really long extension cable as well. Use that quite a bit. Anyway, a week later, here come the horns. They weren't very expensive at all. I'll try and put a link also in the description. Double check to make sure that it does fit your vehicle if this is what you're ordering. But they weren't a whole lot of money. A lot cheaper than they would have been from Honda, if they're even available. This cap I'm putting on here, it's supposed to make it kind of waterproof. It might make it a little quieter too, but with the issues she's having, and then this is a little different than the factory one was. It's got 2 contact points there. One with the wire hanging out there is going to be our ground on the left, and the right one will be this pin with the power to it. Snap those down on there. I think I'm going to just ground it right there because then this horn is going to bolt up to one of these brackets, and the bracket's going to bolt onto the frame of the vehicle, which is a ground, right? And it comes with a couple of these little bolts as well. So this factory bolt that was holding this horn on, we're going to take off because I didn't want to lose it. More videos on this vehicle. I'm going to start a repair playlist for this Honda Odyssey. As I mentioned, I think it's a 2007, and they had this model for a few years with this exact body style because they changed that a couple of years later, I believe. I'm going to take this top one off because we know this one isn't working either. We know this works. You squeeze it, you should be able to pull it off. And this is held down with a bolt again. What did we say that was? 12 millimeter? Yeah, that's what it was. I'm going to use a ratcheting flex wrench. It should make it a little easier. I'm going to also try and put a little bit of lubricant, some penetrating oil through one of the holes here. Try and get this off. This is pretty tight even once I've loosened it a little bit. The threads are just fighting me the whole way. There's kind of a hole in this frame just beside my fingernail to the left. See the big hole there? Right there. And I'm going to try and spray some in there too, which I did. I'm hoping, again, the penetrating oil fell down in the bolt, and it did, and the whole thing falls off. Ta-da. It's out. Can junk that, I guess. Put the new ones in. The only thing is we're going to have to make sure we put, because the horns are a little different, right? Look at all the junk coming out of there. You can just hear it all in there. Put the bracket on, and I'll put my ground there. Put the bolt on, or nut. I think this was a 10. This one. Woo. Sorry about that. You guys okay? Anyway, let's get that on. And then put this frame bolt back on. I did notice that there's 2 different size holes there. We'll snap this wire on. We already learned how to do that earlier. And once we've done that, we will bolt her up, try her out. So this, it kind of has to snap down. There's a couple little fingers that click. I don't know if you heard that or not. Bottom and top. And it should be hanging on good. Now, let's make sure that these both have the same kind of mountings. This, oh, it is a 10. Sure, good. I'm going to tighten that down. Of course, the bracket's going to want to move a little bit as well. These might be kind of a generic kind of horn. They do fit this vehicle, but I'm going to use some fluid film. It's like an anti-corrosion kind of stuff. It's really pretty good. Once it sprays on there, it kind of walks, or maybe another word would be creeps. It migrates. Is that how it is? To fill in all the areas. So it's a really, I like it. Not a sponsor, unless they want to be a sponsor. This bracket has two different size holes, a bigger one and a smaller one, so you want to make sure you get that right. Otherwise, you're just going to have to take it apart and redo it, which is not a big deal. The 12mm nut goes on there. I'm going to tighten her up. Snug it, make sure the bracket's sitting the way the other horn was. Let's see what that one looks like. So again, there are two different horns, and they sit two different ways. So I want to make it just easy that once I have the bracket sitting roughly the way I want it sitting, we can just put the big bolt in, snug her up, plug in the wire, and we're done. Here's the first one here. You may want to skip ahead once you figured out this spot. We're just about done anyway. Appreciate you following along and spending some time with me. Much safer having these working versus no horns at all. She was saying, I don't know how many times somebody came in front of her and wanted to hit the horn, and it's like, there's nothing. She says, they can't hear me screaming. I said, you're not screaming loud enough. Try the horn, make sure the one works first. It does. Okay. Figured I'd try that one first, and it was the one that's going to be hard to get at later. We'll do the second one now. We know how to do this, all the tightening and everything else. Get that in there. Set the bracket back in. This one's going to be a little bit tougher because it seems to stick out against the fender a little bit. But if you have two hands, which now I do because I've got my camera sitting on a mount, plug that in. The plug only goes in one way. Do that. And it should snap. That way it won't unhook. Make sure it clicks. And then I'm going to spray some more of that fluid film or whatever you want to use in there, some grease or something or anything. Anything to get this thing, because next time, if there is a next time, I want this to come off a little easier. Always good to think ahead and make it as easy as I can. Okay, snugged it up. There it is. Zip back into the van and see what we get for a horn note. And is it going to work?
Ooh.
Wow. There you go. Sounds the way it should. Now she can do whatever she needs to get people out of the way. It is a safety thing, really. Also, I've got a piece of plastic here I got from some other vehicle. I don't know where I got it from. It's not exactly the right shape, but we're going to just try and shape it in there a little bit. It'd be better than nothing, just to try and keep the dirt and most of the water from the tire as it flings around in there. That's what it ended up looking like when I was done. Not great, but it's going to work. Thanks for joining me. Horn works. She's happy. I'm happy. Hopefully it helped you. Thanks.